We are going to have a look at a fashion brand called Topiku that produces sustainable and eco-friendly hats from upcycled materials. In addition, they also empower local artisans and reportedly have succeeded in lowering carbon emissions by a few grams per hat.
And I'm just very shocked when I see these hats. They're just like a regular cap, like the real OG cap.
What did you think they were going to look like?
I don't know. I thought, it somewhat looked different, but it's really cool. So we're going to know, and we're going to ask also how they plan to achieve their mission as a sustainable brand, and how is the process for them to make the products. Now, to find out more about this, we have our very own Topiku founder and CEO, Monty Hasan, right here joining us. We wish that he's here in the studio, but he's not because he's under the weather, but we hope that he is feeling better. Monty,
Good morning,
thank you so
Monty.
much for being here with us.
Good morning, guys.
Hi.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for joining us here today. Now, let's talk, talk more about your brand, Topiku. What's your mission? And also, this is a sustainable fashion brand also that you are portraying and also create. So what's behind it all?
Totally. So Topiku, as you all know, means my hat in Indonesian, and we're really on a mission to empower our customers with the information of how their hat was made.
Right.
So we are a sustainable fashion brand. We like to say we create the world's most sustainable hats, and we like to back up that claim with a transparent story and data collection. So, we were founded back when I was still in uni, back in 2015, and we're now in year 7. And it's a transition to my full-time job. Fortunately, I've been able to scale up through the pandemic, create sustainable business, enabled us to be a pandemic-proof business.
Okay, so let's break this down a little bit more, Monty. Can you tell us a little bit about what the process is like in regards to the materials that are used to make your products? We know that you use upcycled and recycled waste materials, but what criteria do you have to follow when it comes to choosing the materials that you're making for the hats? And how many different materials do you use to actually make up one hat?
Totally. So, when it comes to material selection, sustainability and environmental, protection really does start within your material choice. So we have an extremely wasteful and polluting fashion industry that just exploits both the environment and its people. So when we care and think about where our materials come from, we can create a much lower impactful product. So we actually originally started with what's called upcycling. So that's upping the value of materials deemed as waste. We actually started with focusing on what's called post-industrial waste byproducts. So these are the offcuts, the leftovers from various industrial processes. And, us at Topiku, we're trying to explore how can the waste byproducts of one industry become the inputs to another product. So, for example, we're using leftovers from curtain manufacturing. So it's an organic cotton twill. We also do upcycled cotton twill. These are all the leftovers from curtain production. For our brims, we're using a recycled HDPE. This is collected from local landfills, cleaned, processed with our artisans. We're using scrap brass for recycled brass for our clasps. And the top buttons are usually recycled from soda cans. So we're just exploring how the leftovers of one product or one industry can be used as our input materials.
That's amazing. So even right down to because nobody thinks of that. Everybody thinks of a hat as like a couple of materials, but nobody thinks about the little buckles or clasps or the little thing at the top as well. Yeah, it's amazing.
Really the saying that someone else's trash is someone else's treasure, right? For Topiku.
Yeah, 100%.
Now, Monty, 100%. You were sharing with us the process about the materials. Let's talk us through the process of making the hat. Where do you obtain or where did you get the materials from, starting from collecting and then recycling and then the upcycling and then until, you manufacture these hats? And also about the craftsmen, because we see on your social media, there's a lot of pictures that also shows your craftsmen, being a part of the family of Topiku.
Yeah, we're very proud of where our hats come from. The main way we do sell our hats to an international market is through our storytelling, because we have a story that we're proud of. And when we talk about our, material collection, That all started back when I was still in uni, and as I was starting up Topiku, I would take all my summer breaks and spring breaks because I was studying in California, and I would just fly back and build up my supply chain. Because in the advent of what you guys may have heard of greenwashing, I wanted to make sure we could back up all of our claims. So, that process was starting off as just going around to different factories and just knocking on their doors to see where their leftover materials were, because the reality of it is there's no zero waste factories in the garment industry, especially in Indonesia. So I would just come up as a bule, knock on the door of the factory and be like, yo, where's that leftover materials? And that's kind of like our competitive advantage, because when you're going to, let's say, a curtain manufacturer using the same type of cotton twill as our hats, we're actually able to get input materials for cheaper. So from getting the leftover materials, which would normally just be thrown away, we were actually able to reinvest the money we saved into our artisans. Now, when we come to sustainability, a big part, especially as Indonesian brands within this phase of the sustainability movement, is advocacy, awareness, and education. So,
Correct.
When we're working with our artisans, we're not looking to go and preach to them about, oh, don't use that plastic bottle, don't throw away your trash there. We feel like a lot of those statements or claims kind of go over their heads. So a real way to really show them the benefits of sustainability is to show them the financial benefits of sustainability.
True.
So we essentially reward them for working with our process. So that's like, hey, if you simply quantify it, one sustainable hat is worth maybe the pay for 3 normal hats.
Right.
So we always we quantified the benefits of working with our hats from the beginning. And earlier I mentioned we have created a pandemic-proof business. Well, our artisans typically just sell local cheap topi pasar that you see on the side of the road. And if you can imagine, during the pandemic, all the demand for those like local cheap hats actually tanked and went down to zero. But the beautiful thing was we were able to keep placing bigger and bigger orders throughout the pandemic and actually support their livelihoods over the last, 2.5 years of the pandemic. And that really validated to them the financial benefits of sustainability. And because even though all their local demand was down, we quickly grew into their #1 customer. And now we're producing thousands of hats with them per month to a local audience, an international audience. So they get to have a lot more pride over where their craft is going.
And it's because of the value too, right? When when there's a brand like your brand Topiku, you're into like sustainable fashion brand, whatnot, there's a story and a value because of that, and it makes you feel proud. And again, now people are just so very environmental friendly, even to like children and whatnot, so people are more aware of this.
Yeah, and I'm glad you guys kind of recognize that financial reward is important for people. I mean, you can tell people how much healthier our earth is, but it's not putting food on the table. Like some of these local artisans do have families to support, and this is a great way to do it. Now, let's talk about some of the details. I've been kind of looking through topico.co. You guys can check it out yourselves if you want, topiku.co/impact in particular, because this we mentioned the impact that your products have on the environment. And I'm going through some of these illustrations that you have in comparisons, like you said, the environmental impact itself. But can you break it down into layman's terms? I mean, we mentioned at the beginning of the discussion that your products lower carbon emission by several grams per hat. What does that mean? What does that translate to in the real world?
Totally. So when it comes to our carbon footprint, that is essentially, data-backed, science-backed evidence of why your product is sustainable. You're tracking how much it impacts, both air and water resources. So when we talk about that, it requires a process of collecting data along your supply chain. So from material acquisition to transportation to the sewing machines, everything was measured along in this process. And that's a very against the industry standard. But, as a sustainable company, we're also thinking a little bit ahead of the curve. And we want to be able to collect this data on our own terms before it's ever required to. So we're actually a first mover in this space, and while we worked with a third-party consultant to collect all of this data, we actually found out that no other hat company has ever published their carbon footprint report before.
Okay.
So we published the world's first carbon footprint report for a baseball cap. And
Amazing.
the fun thing about that was we actually had no other hat to compare our footprint to because no one else, again, has released that data. So we set that comparison of our own emissions, the impact of our hat, against other sorts of apparel products. So, we found that our hats have I think it's roughly, you can make 3 pairs of running shoes, 3 cotton t-shirts, or 5 polyester dresses compared to our hats.
Right. Yeah,
like
that's
it's
amazing.
The same amount of energy.
I think it's really important that transparency, even though we don't understand all of the numbers, but they're there for us to see and for us to compare. And if you look at the website, I actually give you diagrams in case you don't understand the numbers.
Right.
So you get kind of a visualization of the impact it's having. And it's not impacting just us here in Indonesia. I mean, you do sell your products in the United States, overseas as well.
Of course.
So I think this is making that not just the impact locally, but worldwide as well.
Yeah, and we're so very proud because it's such a great local brand too. And this is where we have to support our local brands, right? Especially with a great value like Topiku.
Right.
Now, again, we are talking about, in a way, we're still talking about fashion industry, correct? I mean, not everyone is eco-friendly. Well, some people that's eco-friendly conscious, they understand the value of your brand. But for some of us, or some other people that is just new to this concepts and whatnot, and they're still thinking about the fashion side of it, right? So when they're thinking, okay, so how does Topiku hats compare to other, let's say, other brands of hats? Does it feel different and whatnot, other than the value of the brand itself or the value of knowing that these are made from, recycled materials and whatnot? So how can you share that with us?
Totally. When it comes to sustainable product design, so if we create a product through upcycling, and it still looks like it's made from those upcycled waste inputs, we might be neglecting a big part of the market. And to really create an impact as a sustainable business, we need to create business models that are competitive, with the current standard of doing business.
Yeah.
So we like to create hats that still look like the average product. It meets your same quality, the same comfort, the same aesthetic. And when we want the shopping decision made by the consumer to put our products next to each other.
Right.
You could put like the name brand hat next to ours, and then essentially they meet each other in terms of quality, comfort, durability. But our hat is the one that has this plus point over it, and that's our story. From creating our products through the values that we have. And we believe consumers should be able to shop without sacrificing those values.
Yeah.
And that's really enabled us to scale over the last few years. While we did start as a consumer brand, we're actually primarily a custom hat manufacturer now.
Very cool.
We work with brands all across the globe for custom hat manufacturing. So
nice.
We've worked with like Qatar Airways.
Wow.
We've worked with Google. This is like
Very cool. I mean,
and I suppose that would be like such an added incentive for even the Ellen DeGeneres show. That's right, we saw that earlier. That's awesome.
The first time that I saw Topico, I was thinking, are these hats made of, like what in my mind, imagination, like straws and whatnot, like whatnot. When I saw this, like this is the typical, this is like the typical cap that we like to use, Pete.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
The same.
Like I was saying, this would be such an incentive for corporations where they want to show that they're green, and
like
if they're going to
part of their CSR.
Right. So if they're going to make 1,000 caps, why not make it more sustainable?
Yes.
I myself have a little bit more partial to this one. This is a very cool design. It says Tempe Panyet, and I think for those in Indonesia, I think you would love this one as well. On the back, it says New York, London, Bekasi. I love that. It's awesome. There's very cool designs as well, and I think there's some as well we saw in that B-roll footage of the, there's a batik design, and it's very cool.
Because you can customize it, right?
Definitely. There's a spot on the website where you can actually make your own designs as well. Now, last but not least, Monty, what have you guys got planned in the future?
Yeah, so, we are currently growing what's called our Changemaker series. As we work with a lot of corporations, we're actually able to support more and more nonprofits. That's both as part of our commitments as 1% for the Planet members, climate neutral members, and we're working towards what's called our B Corp certification. But we kind of go beyond those obligations, and we actually like to supply nonprofits with donated merch. So we've worked with organizations like Sumai Watch, using an activewear fabric that they're I'll take a step back. Activewear is normally for sports, right? But we believe it's for actively making a change. So we'll sponsor these different nonprofits with these activewear hats that they can sweat in and get dirty while they're, working on their mission. So we've worked with the International Rhino Foundation, donating hats to anti-rhino poachers and conservationists. We're working with the Borneo Orangutan Foundation that's coming up within the next month. So essentially finding different nonprofits to support, and we just donate hats to them, and they're high quality hats that, again, they can use out in the outdoors as they work on their mission. So we're expanding that portion of our business.
We'll never look at activewear the same way again. I've got that double entendre. Monty, thank you so much for your time and for a deeper look into Topiku.
Thank you, guys.
And keep doing good things.
Yeah, thank you for staying grounded to your values and whatnot, and seeing that, even though you're doing this green path, but also it's also a great business. You're kind of showing to us that we can do this. So hats off to you, no pun intended, Monty, and hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
All right, take care.
Yeah.
Have a great week.
Thank you.